A standoff with the Breen, the return of a classic Discovery character, and discovering the next location for the next puzzle piece with a link back to Voyager. All of this coming up. Hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Fanatics. Today we're talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 5 Episode 7 entitled Eriga, where we saw the Breen come back in an attempt to take Mol and Lark back into custody from the Federation. I thought this was an interesting episode. It was certainly very tense and suspenseful and had a lot of interesting dramatic moments and everything. And it kind of turned out a little bit differently than how we perhaps thought it might play out. We got a bit more backstory into Rayner's character and his history with the Breen, and T'Rina taking lead on the negotiations. Let's unpack what was Episode 7, Eriga. So first off, good to see Commander Nhan back again. Obviously she used to be Discovery's security chief. She's now working for Starfleet Security, and having her in charge of this investigation and so forth, and the interrogation and capture of Mol and Lark was a good fit for this episode. She is a good character despite having hands down the worst line of dialogue in a Star Trek episode ever.
Yum yum.
That's right, Commander Yum Yum. Now they've got Mol and Lark back in custody, courtesy of what probably has to be the ugliest ship in all of Starfleet. This one, the design is, it's not the nicest looking ship I've ever seen. It's a little bit on the ugly side. They've obviously got the book back that they lost back in Episode 1. They got most of the information out of the book from the Android scan of it, but obviously there was a few little pages towards the back maybe they didn't quite get to, so it's good that they've now got the whole picture there. After a little bit of a tense negotiation between Book and Nhan, obviously she hasn't quite got over Book's actions from last season, we see Mol and Lark beamed into sickbay. He's still suffering from the stab wound that he copped in the Mirrors episode, and Culber's doing what he can to stabilise his injuries, but it's kind of a bit tough. We don't know all that much about Breen physiology. They're essentially jelly people, so it's not like they have all these organs and stuff that they can easily kind of identify and work out what's what and everything, so they're a little bit stumped in terms of how to perhaps help his medical situation. And the Breen refrigeration suits seem to come into play here. They need to acquire a refrigeration unit to which perhaps would help stabilise his injuries. The Breen are on their way. They want Mol and Lark back at all costs. It essentially turns out that obviously because of Lark's lineage, he's got a direct descendant link from the Breen Emperor, and whoever the Priarch is who needs to take command of the Breen Empire, they essentially need Lark to help facilitate that happen. So all these warring factions who are trying to take over the Breen Empire, if they've got Lark with them, it kind of helps their case. We get a tense meeting with the Breen here, with T'Rina taking lead in the negotiations, and we soon find out that Rayner has a bit of a chip on his shoulder about the Breen, which he's kind of been hesitant to divulge up until now. But it turns out that there was a period of time, at some point in Rayner's lifetime, the Breen used Kelleran as an outpost, where they, I guess, occupied the planet for a period of time. And there was a bit of a resistance there between the Kelleran and the Breen, probably a bit like, I guess, how the Cardassians occupied Bajor for a period of time. And it seemed like that most of Rayner's family were killed during this occupation of Kelleran, and he was the only survivor. So it was nice to get a bit of more backstory into Rayner's planet, his history and everything, and what makes him tick. We find out that with the last piece of the puzzle, there was also a little metal card which had a Betazoid insignia on it, and it turns out that this was essentially a Betazoid library card. There's an archive that floats around in space, changes location constantly, that contains very rare and sought after manuscripts and writings and sort of like an archive of history and so forth. And it seems like this place is the next place where we're going to be finding the next and final puzzle piece. Based on all the trailer shots and everything and promo photos, it definitely seemed like this episode was going to be more of a scientific or engineering based kind of questionnaire, with Stamets and Tilly and Dira and Reno working together to try to unlock some kind of scientific question. But it kind of turned out that Reno used to work in a library or used to work as a book smuggler or something, and they had to kind of press her for information on this library archive that she used to kind of work in or something. It kind of seemed like a little bit of a weird link there with her. So all these shots we saw of Reno working on various different engineering situations with Tilly and Adira had really nothing to do with she just happened to be doing some maintenance on the ship while giving them information about her past job careers and so forth. And considering these jobs that she used to do were essentially 1,000 years ago, there's no guarantee this archive library ship still existed or anything. So she was kind of talking about it as if she completely knew everything that was going on, but the link seemed a little bit dubious, and particularly her bartending connection with the Seven of Limes cocktail, which clearly is named after Seven of Nine, but that was in the 23rd century before Seven of Nine was even born. So a bit of a weird link. So I guess it was interesting knowing a little bit more about Reno's past, being a bit of a book smuggler or something. With Mol and Lark obviously held captive in sickbay, we get a bit more information about the succession history of the Breen and how Lark is tied up in all of that, being related to the Emperor, and how his involvement or connection to the Primarchs or whatever will give them an edge and everything in terms of them taking succession of the throne and everything. It was all very political. But with finding out Rhaenyra's connection back to the Breen and how they occupied his home world and how he had a big run-in with the Primarch by the name of Ta'al, it seems like they're going to use this piece of information to bluff the other Primarch who wants to take Lark back and do this whole bluff thing where they claiming to have a side deal going on with this other Primarch, and they're going to hand Lark over to her. It's all a big kind of ruse that's going on there just to bluff the Breen to backing off. There's some nice tender moments between Mol and Lark in sickbay here. They're obviously very dedicated to one another, and you can tell that Lark isn't just hanging in there. He obviously injects himself with an overdose of drugs in order to help Mol escape sickbay, and there's a bit of a fight there. We get a bit of action there with Culber. Culber doesn't get too much hand-to-hand action, but he gets a little bit involved here in this episode. That's a bit of a difference and a bit of new stuff for him, so that's cool. Not to mention Commander Nhan, who gets a bit of action as well, but Mol seems to have better hand-to-hand fight skills, and she takes out most of sickbay in order to escape. Negotiations with the Breen proceed, but even though they offer them 45 tons of raw dilithium, they don't want that, they don't care about that. They just want Lark back, and they try to get this bluff going between the previous Priarch that Rhaena had dealings with, Ta'al, and that he tries to name drop her ship, the Tau Ceti, and everything, which obviously is a link back to the Tau Ceti traveller that was able to control warp fields with his mind. He was from Tau Ceti, I believe. Interesting link back there. We find out that the next puzzle piece is in this library archive, the Eternal Gallery and Archive, which happens to be, after a little bit of research and working out where its previous positions and movements were, that it's actually located in the Badlands that we remember from Voyager. This was where the caretaker or whatever whisked the Voyager away into the Delta Quadrant, this area of space, which I guess is a pretty good place to hide a library archive if you're able to withstand all of the plasma storms and everything that are going on in there. Book obviously uses his bit of his ESP, being a little bit empathic himself, to I guess get a reading off the card to work out that's where the library is hidden, and they're able to kind of work that out. So there's an interesting little link back to the Badlands that were established in DS9 and also obviously in Voyager. In the end, Lark succumbs to his wounds. He obviously injected himself with a bit too much drugs and he kind of OD'd. So by the end of the episode, Lark is dead. But Mol makes a deal with the Breen to give them the progenitor's tech or whatever she knows on that. And that's the only way the Federation can essentially get out of a massive war with the Breen, is to essentially hand over Mol to them so that she can give them this highly advanced technology, under the hope that it will bring Lark back to life. Not a great course of action, but I guess it beats going to war with the Breen. This was an interesting episode. I thought there was a lot of tense standoffs in this episode, where we had obviously those scenes with the Breen negotiating and trying to bluff them and everything. I did think we might have been getting a little bit of a space battle going on. I thought that might have crept in there, but it was all very tense standoffs. It was engaging, it was interesting, it was kind of tense. Again, a very noticeable absence of Saru. Obviously, even though they're back, Federation HQ and everything, Tarina's there. She's there negotiating with the Breen, but not a sign of Saru anywhere to be seen. He's off somewhere else. I kind of feel like we're missing a bit of Saru in this season. He's vanished. I know we're going to be getting him back before the end of the season, but this is like the third episode in a row, I think now, where we haven't had any scenes with Saru in them. So yeah, well, I'm feeling his absence. It would have been a good opportunity to involve him in the negotiations with him and Tarina working side by side, but that seemed like a bit of a missed opportunity, if you ask me. This episode's certainly a big improvement on the last episode. I think seeing the Breen on Force with their massive dreadnought ship, really interesting, exciting, and I think that these guys are posing to be quite an interesting villain. They're hard to be negotiated with. They're all about power and everything, and as Lark said, you can't negotiate with a Breen like you can a human. There's no sense of morality or no sense of negotiation there. They just want what they want, and seem like a very stubborn race. They're very set in their ways. They do things how they want to do it, and kind of screw the rest of the galaxy, I guess. Looks like next episode we'll be travelling to the library archive, which we've seen before in a couple of trailer shots and everything. Very interesting looking library visuals and so forth that I'm guessing we're going to be heading to within the Badlands. We've only got 3 episodes left in the season, so hopefully we're ramping up to a very good series finale here in Star Trek Discovery. I quite enjoyed this episode, but let me know what you guys think. Leave a thought in the comments section and we'll get chatting about that. Be sure to subscribe to Sci-Fi Fanatics if you haven't already done so, and to check out my merch in the merch store. Plenty of cool t-shirts there. Pick yourself up a bargain. There's heaps of good stuff to check out, and it helps support the channel as well, so I appreciate all your support there. I'll be back very soon, no doubt with the sneak peek scene for episode 8 to check that out. I'll see you guys soon.